You know that feeling, right? You find the absolute perfect decorative pot, it matches your decor, it's the right size, and then you flip it over. Ugh, no hole in the bottom. It's such a classic plant parent problem, and honestly, it has sparked some seriously heated debates online. So let's just dive in and try to settle this once and for all. So this is the big question, isn't it? Do your plants really need those drainage holes? It seems so simple on the surface, but I'm telling you, if you hop onto any gardening forum or, spend 5 minutes on Reddit, you'll find people duking it out on both sides. Is it an absolute must-have, or is it something you can kind of work around? And yeah, this breaks it down perfectly. You've got Team Drainage Hole over here, the purists, who will tell you it's absolutely non-negotiable. It's essential for healthy roots. End of story. Then you have Team No Holes, the rebels, who are kind of like, it's no big deal, my plants look great, and just shrug it off. So, who's actually right here? All right, to figure that out, we've got to get to the root of the problem. Yeah, literally. We need to look at the actual science of what's happening down there in the soil, because that's where the real answer is hiding. Okay, so the number one villain in this whole story is this guy, root rot. And what's so fascinating here is that one word, suffocate. I think we forget that plant roots actually need to breathe. They need access to oxygen just as much as they need water. It's a two-part equation. So picture this. In a perfect world, in a pot with good drainage, any extra water just flows right out the bottom. What that does is it leaves all these little air pockets in the soil. And that's what lets the roots breathe and do their job, absorb nutrients and thrive. That's a happy root system right there. But when there's no escape route, that water just pools at the bottom. It creates a little swamp in your pot, and as you can see, it fills up all those essential air pockets, and it literally drowns the roots. They can't breathe, they start to decay, and boom, that's when you get that dreaded root rot. So now that we know just how dangerous that standing water can be, let's look at the first side of this argument. This is the official case for why you absolutely should use pots with holes. Really, you should think of a drainage hole as your ultimate safety net. Come on, we've all been guilty of overwatering at some point. It's like the number one killer of houseplants. That little hole is the escape hatch for all that extra water. It's what stops the soil from turning into a muddy mess, and for plants like succulents and cacti, it's totally non-negotiable. They come from dry places, and they absolutely hate having wet feet. Okay, but let's be real. What about all those gorgeous ceramic pots that don't have holes? Are we supposed to just ignore them? Is it ever okay to use one? Well, let's flip over to the other side of the argument now. So the first thing to get straight is that not all plants are the same. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Some plants, like a lot of ferns or peace lilies, they actually like things a bit moist. They're way more tolerant of damp soil than, say, that desert cactus we were just talking about. But, and this is the big but, here's the catch. If you're going to go holeless, all of that responsibility for managing the water, it falls completely on you. There is no safety net. You can't just water until you see it run out the bottom. You have to be super precise and give that plant exactly what it needs and not a drop more. It takes a lot more attention to detail for sure. So what happens if you've already fallen in love with that perfect pot and it doesn't have a hole? Are you just out of luck? No, not at all. There are actually some pretty smart workarounds that can give you the best of both worlds. Okay, this method right here, this is my absolute favorite trick. It's called double potting. All you do is plant your plant in a cheap, basic plastic pot. The one it came in from the nursery, with all the holes. Then you just pop that pot inside your beautiful, fancy one. When you water, wait a few minutes, pull the inner pot out, and just dump out any extra water that's collected at the bottom of the outer pot. Boom, you get the looks and the function. Problem solved. Now, I bet you've heard of this one. People say to put a layer of gravel or rocks at the bottom of the pot to create drainage. The thinking is that it gives the excess water somewhere to pool. But, and this is a big warning, you have to be really careful with this method. It's not foolproof. The water doesn't actually escape the pot. It just sits down there, creating a swampy, humid zone. And if you overwater too much, the water level just rises right up above the rocks and soaks the soil anyway. So, yeah, it's maybe a little better than nothing, but it is not a real solution. Okay, so we've been through the science, the pros and cons, the hacks. So where does that leave us? What's the final verdict? What should you actually do? Let's just break it down nice and simple. Look, if you're a new plant parent, my best advice is to just stick with drainage holes. Seriously,
It is by far the safest bet, and it gives you a ton of room for error while you're learning. But if you're a more seasoned gardener, if you feel like you've really mastered moisture control and you know your plants inside and out, then yeah, go for it. Feel free to experiment, just as long as you know that you are the one playing the role of the drainage hole. Because at the end of the day, this whole debate, it isn't really just about a hole in a pot. It's about something bigger. It's about paying attention. The drainage hole is just a tool, but the most important factor here is you. Are you actually listening to your plant? Are you sticking your finger in the soil to check the moisture before you water? Are you noticing when its leaves start to look a little sad? Because a plant parent who really pays attention, well, they can make almost any pot work.